welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Fairhaven Health brings you the Milk Saver on the go, the on-the-go version of the wildly popular original Milk Saver that collects your leaking breast milk. And today's episode is also brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician-tested shampoos, conditioners, styling, and body care products produced and packaged in the USA, like the Scrumptious Baby Cream, which we'll hear more about later. But right now, Dianne has our review of the week. But let me also say, you can also go to Badass Breastfeeding Podcast, scroll down to the bottom, and enter your email address, and you will have our episodes sent right to your inbox every Monday, so you don't have to search us out.
Right. What could be easier?
Right.
Perfect.
Now Dianne has our review of the week, I think.
And it came to us from Instagram.
Oh, cool.
So this is from JoAnimal59 on Instagram. Hi, Abby and Dianne. I came across your podcast a few weeks ago, and I just had to get in touch to tell you I love it. I'm currently 6 months into breastfeeding baby number 2 after feeding baby number 1 for 2.5 years, only stopping because I found feeding while pregnant was very tricky. Every time I listen to an episode of your podcast, I think I've heard the best one. Then I listen to an episode and I say to my husband, no, this was even better. I love finding out all the cool new things about breastfeeding. There's so much to learn, even after years of feeding my babies. I've been really fortunate that the part of the UK where I live has a fantastic feeding support network, and I wish all mothers had a system like I have access to, because it's definitely would help me feed as long as I have. I'm now directing all the feeding moms I come across to check your podcast. So empowering and informative. I wish I'd have found you when I was pregnant with my first. Listening to you both while I'm cooking the dinner makes me feel like I've got a little support team giving me a boost throughout the week. I look forward to hearing many, many more. Keep being badass, Joanna. Thank you, Joanna. She's in the UK. We have a little following in the UK. I love it. But I'm glad that she has found resources there where she is, because there's a lot of places that don't have any resources, and moms are just like looking for their own resources. And
I think the UK is very similar to the United States. The breastfeeding rates are really low. There's very little support. There's a lot of stigma around like the breasts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being a listener and for sending us a review. She did it through Instagram. If you can put it on iTunes, that really helps the podcast a lot. It boosts us up. And I mean, you might think we might not need any boosting, but we could always use a boost. But
we do need boosting.
Yes, we do need boosting. I'm not even going to kid. But Badass Breastfeeding Podcast at gmail.com. We get a lot of comments that way too, and we love them. We read them and keep them. And thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And last week, we were kind of teasing into what we were going to talk about this week.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like we'll talk about all the reasons that babies breastfeed. Babies and children breastfeed, because it's not just babies that breastfeed, right?
It is not just babies. No.
And you're just like, well, of course, my baby breastfeeds because they're hungry and because they want to cuddle. But like, really, the list goes on and on. If you think about it, your baby doesn't know anything except how to breastfeed.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know how to fart. They don't even know.
True.
Really, like swallowing is hard. Like all they're doing is like breathing. Like they're learning all of this, and all they can do is breastfeed. That's all they can do.
And so you might be listening to this being like, well, I know that. I know that my baby breastfeeds to soothe and to calm and to, ease pain, or, whatever the reasons are that your baby breastfeeds. But this is to arm you with information too. So when those other people come to you and say, why are you still feeding your baby? They're eating solids. Why are you still feeding their baby? They're old enough now to ask you for it. Why are you still nursing your baby when they have teeth? Like, you can come at them and be like, this is why, because it's not just for food. It's for a zillion other things.
Right. And I don't think we ever think about this from the baby's perspective.
No, absolutely not.
Right? We're like, what? It's fine. Everything's fine in here. I don't know why they're upset. I'm totally comfortable in this room, so I don't know why they're so upset. Not not that people are like so sarcastically talking to their baby, but you might think like you get, your baby is constantly nursing. Maybe your toddler is constantly nursing. And it's not because you have low milk supply. It's not because they're manipulating you. It's not because you're giving in and you're not teaching them boundaries. It's
Bad
not because,
habits.
it's
Ugh.
not bad habits. I'm so sick of that
Oh,
comment.
I hate it. I hate it.
And I had a conversation about this on my Instagram the other day, and it was, I can't even remember the post right now, but it was like something about breastfeeding to sleep is normal. It's not a bad habit. And then someone swoops in and is like, oh, well, bad habits form around 4 months.
What?
I was like, I'm not getting into this right now. But like, where do we get this information?
4 months?
4 months old. Like a baby that's like pretty much a newborn still.
Oh my gosh.
And it's bad habits are forming.
And how is nursing a bad habit? That's what I don't understand. I don't understand that. They're not like out robbing a bank. They're, they're 4 months old. They need comfort and security. I don't understand why a bad habit would be.
And I'm sorry,
nursing.
So does a 4-year-old.
Right. Absolutely.
This is ridiculous. And I'm so sick of the way that this culture thinks about babies, thinks about like behaviors. Everybody is constantly, and I get it, we will live in a sick ass society.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it comes down, we put it all on babies too. Like, oh, you're forming a bad habit because you fell asleep at my breast. It's like, this is ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. It's so harmful. And then we end up with all of these interventions to get our babies to stop breastfeeding when like it's just the only thing that they know how to do.
Right.
And then what? Suckling is the one thing they have, and then we take that away. And then what? Don't tell me there's no ramifications.
Oh my God. It's really like it's seriously, it makes me so angry.
Oh my God, I know, I'm sitting here getting so pissed off. I can't even think about what I was going to say.
I know. It makes me so angry. It makes me so angry.
Me too. And I can't, that's why I didn't even like respond to this, because I was like, I can't be ruining my day. I'm not going to debate with every single person on the internet. Like those days are over. I used to do that shit. Not doing that anymore. And like, thankfully, most people were coming in and like having a discussion, and most people were being very like, we're like, no, this is what I do. And, most people kind of like can at least get it. But there are some really extreme views of babies out there. And like, why don't we stop for a second and think about this from the baby's perspective?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, you're comfortable in this room. Well, I don't know. How's the temperature? How's the lighting? How is somebody speaking like, in a frustrated manner to somebody else? Your baby, well, they're little. They're just babies. They don't know. Yeah, they do.
Absolutely, they do.
They can feel that you're upset. And that might make them upset too.
Sometimes it's not even something that's going on at that moment,
Right.
Like we look at those babies that are cluster feeding in the evening, I'll usually like newborn from like 2 weeks to 2 months. They're cranky, fussy, and miserable, and only want to be on the boob in the evening. And moms always go, oh my gosh, I must not have enough milk. The baby's, and it's like, no, your baby is soothing. They're overstimulated from the day. I'll be like, what did you do today? Oh, we had visitors, and then we went to a doctor's appointment, and then we ran a couple errands. Like, yeah, your baby is like, I'm freaking done. I'm done.
Yeah,
and I need to calm down, and I need to feel secure, and this is where I'm doing it.
Right. And while the grown-ups are all reaching for a bottle of wine, we're like, we're fine. We're totally fine. Nothing's wrong here.
I mean,
we're fine. We're just calming down. We're soothing. Why is my baby so upset?
Hey, when they're 2,
you're doing the exact same thing your baby's doing.
And when they're 2, we're like, oh, they're having a tantrum, but you can talk to them and you can kind of
naughty.
Yeah. Like, but this is your baby letting off that same steam. And when your toddler does it, your 3-year-old, your 4-year-old, whatever, you go send them to take a nap because you're like, you're tired, you're cranky, we've been running around. Why don't you go take a nap?
Or you breastfeed them.
Right. Unless you're one of those people that was like, oh, I have to wean them because,
Well, fine, you wean. But if you didn't, and it's really, or if you want to keep, it's a very useful tool up until they stop on their own.
Oh my God.
It's okay to breastfeed for as long as your child wants to. They'll stop eventually. But it's also like at some point it feels like cheating. It's like it's such an answer to everything.
Mm-hmm.
He fell down, he bumped his head, he's sick, he's tired, he's anything, he's overwhelmed, whatever. It's just like boob is the answer to everything.
The whole, like, I don't even want to get back to this, but like the whole thought process of causing bad habits.
Ugh.
Like, and I'm only bringing this up again because I can't even wrap my head around it half the time.
I know.
Like, I just don't understand that. And I think about my own kids. My kids are teenagers, like older teenagers, and I don't remember them going to sleep without breastfeeding. Like, honestly, like I don't remember like I don't remember like putting my 20-year-old to bed without breastfeeding him when he was a baby. He's not still doing that, obviously. He didn't continue doing that forever. It wasn't a bad habit. It was how we went to sleep. Why would you I just don't understand why you would disrupt the entire household when the easy thing to do would be just to nurse him and put him back to sleep.
Right.
Like,
And it's usually because somebody is like, well, you should stop doing that. You're making a bad habit.
right.
And it's usually somebody else because it's usually us. I mean, of course, there's certain situations where maybe you yourself don't want to, but it's usually somebody else. Usually we're just like, oh my God, I'm just going to nurse him. Like, everybody shut up. I'll just nurse him. It'll be easier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after I had Exley and I started having nursing aversion, it got a lot harder. It got a lot harder to like lay down with Jack. And I remember I went through this for years where I would lay down with him and I would literally like pinch my boob because it was just so aggravating. I just had nursing aversion every time he latched on.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my God, I was not going to give up how easy it was to put him to sleep when he was nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would literally like do these things. I would look at my phone. I would go on to like, these like crazy websites and read or Facebook pages, like the White House Facebook page or like, those political things and just read the comments and just distract myself.
Yeah.
Just to try to get through it because it was so easy. It was so much easier.
Right.
Even nursing through nursing aversion was easier than dealing with Jack if he couldn't have boob to go to sleep.
Well,
that was how it was for me. And you know what? At 6.5, and one day he turned over and he was just like, I'm going to go to sleep. And he went to sleep. And after a week, I was like, you haven't breastfed to sleep for a while now. And you know what he said to me? He said, yeah, I could kind of tell that you didn't really like it that much anymore.
Aw.
Which made me feel really sad. But also I was like, okay. So he like made a decision. Like, I got this. Okay, Mom, I get it. Because I would say things like, okay, your mouth is really big and it's very uncomfortable. So we're going to do it for 1 minute and then we're going to stop and I'm going to put my arm around you. And at some point he was just like, I don't need it anymore. Like, don't worry. I know, it's uncomfortable because I'm bigger now. And so he just like could literally make that decision and made the decision. They don't do it forever.
No, they don't. They don't do it forever.
But at some point you could just be like, it kind of bothers me. And they're like, okay, because they're so old.
But think about like those families that do pacifiers, which, that's fine too. I have no problem with pacifiers. My kids never took them, but
that's the problem is some kids just won't take them.
Right. But pediatricians, doctors, families, relatives, whatever, are fine with your child having a pacifier to the age of 2 or 3 years old. And then they say, okay, now we've got to take it away and blah, blah, blah. How is that any different?
Right.
How is that any different than your baby nursing? Because you are so dependent on that pacifier to put them to sleep that, I have parents that tell, I have to keep getting up in the middle of the night and giving it to them because it falls out, or I've had to do this. And it's like, how come the doctors aren't saying at 6 months, that's going to become a habit. You might not want to give that to them anymore to go to sleep. That's going to be a habit. How come that's not a problem?
Right.
But breastfeeding is. A pacifier is only a replacement for a mom.
Know? I know. Does everybody know that they invented pacifiers to replace boobs?
Yeah, that's all it is.
I mean, like, it's just a replacement for a boob. in your mouth because that's what they need to do to soothe themselves. They need to suckle. And it's not a bad habit, and it doesn't prevent them from learning how to self-soothe later in life. It actually helps them learn to self-soothe. Being able to soothe and soothing them helps them learn how to self-soothe. Why is this so confusing?
It's ridiculous. I don't know why we have these babies that we're like, they need to fend for themselves. I don't care if they just came out of the womb 5 minutes ago. Let them fend for themselves.
Don't let them suckle. Don't let them do anything that they're going to learn is soothing, because they need to learn on their own how to self-soothe. What? How does this even make sense? How are they supposed to learn if they don't learn first?
But you are going against what every mother's instinct is. You know, your instinct, if your child cries, your instinct, that triggers you. And there's science behind that. You know, like your baby cries, you pick them up, you want to soothe them. And people are telling you don't do that. Like they're going against what your natural instinct as a mother is to do.
I know. People talk about, I remember when this whole conversation was going on in the media when Jamie Lynn Grumet was on the cover of Time magazine breastfeeding her toddler.
I love it. Yeah.
And like this discussion, I remember listening to this discussion on The View or something. And Dr. Sears went on The View and he was talking about like, they're like, it seems so hard to like breastfeed forever and like, you know, to just like sleep with your baby and like just have your baby around you all the time. It's like really hard. And he's just like, what? And they're talking about like cry it out when like, and he was like, isn't that hard? Like, isn't that hard on you when you're like when people are doing cry it out? Like, I remember being in this parenting group a long time ago when people would just be like, oh my God, my baby, I'm trying to let my baby cry it out, but it's so hard. I'm in the living room and I'm like just crying and I'm like, what is happening?
It's insane. It's insanity.
Go in there. And people like, thank God, people were like, go in the room and pick up your fucking baby. What is happening? Have this baby, grow this baby inside your body, have them as close to you as anyone can ever possibly be to you. Give birth to them and put them in the other room and shut the door.
And listen to them cry.
For you.
I had a Facebook friend, somebody that I used to work with, actually. And you all know that I work in maternal child health. So this is somebody that has been in the maternal child health world and was doing the whole sleep training with her baby. And she was posting the statuses on Facebook. She's screaming. She's crying so much she threw up. She's doing like just to get extra sleep, which I know, yes, that's important. But your baby is not ready for that yet. Obviously, if they're not going in and going, they're not ready. They need you. And I don't understand how and sometimes the sleep trainers be like, oh, it's only a couple nights and then it'll be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for them to withdraw into that.
That is not easy to sit there and listen to them cry.
No. And there's a reason it's not easy.
Right.
Like your body, your whole entire existence is like, this is wrong.
We are wired to respond to them. They're your child. It's your child.
Yeah. We need to take a break.
Okay.
We need to gather ourselves.
I know. I need to like do a little Zen something. I'll be over here like sitting in my
Take
spot.
Some deep breaths. I'll read, distract ourselves. All right. Today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. The Milky's Milk Saver on the go is a mini version of the original Milk Saver loved by so many. The original Milk Saver is perfect for using on the opposite breast while breastfeeding to collect the letdown. But what about in between feedings or when you're out and about? The Milk Saver on the go is a discrete breast milk collection system designed to collect leaking breast milk when you are not feeding so you don't waste any more breast milk to a breast pad. The breast shells can be tucked right inside your shirt and then place your nipple right into the hole. The unique oblong shape allows you to collect more than other brands. Each shell holds about 1 ounce of milk, and people are collecting several ounces a day to add to their stash. It's not a pump. There is no work for you to do. It also helps protect sore nipples from rubbing and chafing while they heal. Head to fairhavenhealth.com, that's FAIRHAVEN health.com, and use promo code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And today's episode is also brought to you by Original Sprout. Original Sprout carries safe, effective, and pediatrician tested shampoos, conditioners, styling, and body care products produced and packaged in the USA. The Scrumptious Baby Cream is a multi-purpose protective barrier baby cream to keep skin smooth and soft. Natural zinc provides an environmental defense, gentle yet ultra moisturizing for happy baby and a happy skin. You won't need to worry about harsh chemicals irritating your baby's skin, which is what happens all the time with all of these products. They end up just burning and making things worse, in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
But not the Scrumptious Baby Cream. All of Original Sprouts products are paraben and phthalate-free, vegan, and cruelty-free. Their proprietary formulas contain nourishing extracts from fruits, vegetables, and flowers that the whole family can enjoy. You can use this too on your skin. Made for babies, perfect for grown-ups too. Check out the entire line at originalsprout.com and use code BADASS for 25% off of your purchase. And all of our sponsors and these promo codes and their links can be found at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Find this episode right at the top. Scroll down to the show notes and you'll find the links, the promo codes, and everything that I've said if you missed it. On our website, you will also find our breastfeeding resources page, as well as all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your lactation consultation with Dianne.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have this week's shout out of the week. And this shout out of the week goes to the People's Midwife on Instagram. This is Mother Midwife Visionary. She is the CEO of Inner Circle Midwifery, which you can also find on Instagram at Inner Circle Philly. This is a midwifery practice in Philadelphia. And you can, they describe themselves as here, I'm going to innercirclemidwifery.com. If you're in Philly, check them out if you're looking for a midwife. Inner Circle Midwifery is a private home birth midwifery practice based in historic Germantown, Philadelphia. As midwives, we provide clinical services during normal childbearing cycles spanning preconception, pregnancy, labor, birth, lactation, and postpartum period. So if you are looking to home birth, which you might be, especially now, check them out. And also check them out on Instagram. Again, it is the People's Midwife. On Instagram, they're also Inner Circle Philly. On Instagram, the feed is just beautiful and filled with all kinds of information, and you should put it in your feed.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
That's fantastic.
So, you know, when you're at a restaurant, sorry, I have no problem getting right back into this conversation. You know, when you're at a restaurant and there's a baby crying and you're just like, I mean, my boobs used to tingle and ache.
Yeah.
At this point, it's just my whole body wants to like jump through a window. Like we are all wired to respond to babies this way. You know, like it's your body and your whole entire existence connected to your ancestors from the beginning of humanity are like, pick up the baby.
Somebody
Nurse
pick
the
up
baby.
the baby.
Somebody
Yeah.
give the baby a boob. And I will do that in restaurants, and I'll just sit there and just be like moving around and looking around and we're like, oh my God, somebody just breastfeed that baby.
It is like, I know, it makes me so antsy. Just like pick them up, do something.
Yeah.
Respond.
And it's like,
they need you to respond to them so that they feel secure and safe. We want our babies to feel safe. They do not know where they are. We are their safety net. I mean,
yeah,
it's just...
we do, again, with the expectations of babies. We just expect them to just behave the way that we want them to, or the way that they do on TV or whatever. And like, you know, so you're going to do, you know, you pick them up, you smell their diaper, you know, try to see if they're hot or cold or whatever. You can't figure it out. Just put them on the boob.
Right.
You're not always going to know what's wrong. Something's wrong. Or maybe nothing's wrong. I don't know. They're just a baby. They need to breastfeed. That's all.
But when people, you know, if they're having breastfeeding problems or they're really struggling with it, or maybe, you know, they're having milk supply issues, whatever the problem might be, sometimes people say, oh, you know, if you wean, it'll be easier, or just, you know, they just end up kind of like filtering it out and going to bottles because they're like, oh, it wasn't worth it to just breastfeed once a day, whatever. It is worth it. Your baby, this gives your baby way more than food. It gives them so much more than food. And even if you're only breastfeeding them once a day, that is still giving them that security and that trust and that love and that relationship that they need from their mother. It is so important, and it has nothing to do with food 90% of the time. But that's what
Right.
our society misses. They're like, "Oh, they don't need to eat again. Why do they need to eat again? Why do they need to do that? Why are you putting them on the breast? Why are you still breastfeeding? Whatever." And plus, it's nobody else's business, honestly. Like, and I've said that probably every single podcast episode that we've had. It's nobody else's business. Nobody needs to be ever saying anything about how long you breastfeed your child for. You're not hurting them. You're not doing anything negatively. And that kid's
Yeah,
probably going to be way more secure and way more psychologically stable than any other kid they know.
right. You cannot spoil even a very big kid with breastfeeding. It's impossible. If you start throwing cookies at them every single time they cry, that's a different story. If you breastfeed them every time they cry, it's like you don't have to worry about it because it's impossible to spoil a child with breastfeeding.
So I did a consult yesterday via on video with one of our listeners who's in London, actually, in the UK. And her baby, doing my little air quotes, was 3.5. And I should have asked her if I could talk about this, and then I could have said her name, but I didn't, so I won't say her name. But beautiful, beautiful family, and extended breastfed with her first child into pregnancy, and then now this one is 3.5, and she was having some pain. So one of the things that she said was, because of his age, if I try to ask a doctor or even sometimes other lactation people, they'll say, well, maybe it's just time to wean, instead of helping her solve the problem. So she was like, I'm really grateful that I could contact you about this, because I know you're not going to say that, which obviously I'm not going to say that. And she said, which I loved this, she was like, we were talking about extended breastfeeding, and she was like, I would get less pushback if I posted a picture of my son with a sucker in his mouth and a soda in his hand.
That's so true.
And I'm like, you know what? That is really true. That is really, really true. And she was like, he still nurses to sleep. She's like, it's just easy. It's just easier. She wanted to fix the problem because she's not done yet. And I don't blame her. Like, why would you just... But she's right. You take it to a doctor, you take it to an OB, you take it to a pediatrician, whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, just wean. It's been long enough. Don't you think it's just time to wean now? Maybe you just need to wean." I've had mothers go to doctors for repeated mastitis, repeated thrush, stuff like that, and they're like, "Well, maybe you just need to wean." Really? How about we fix the problem?
No, we can't fix problems. No, we can't do it.
I mean,
and we don't do this, and I've talked about this before. We don't do this about anything else.
No,
if
we
you
don't.
Came to somebody about problems with your marriage, problems with your job, whatever, people wouldn't be like, well, just get divorced. Just quit your job. Whatever. It's just time to quit. Nobody says that. It's only breastfeeding where we're just like, nah, take it or leave it. You don't need it.
And it's the same thing with your baby. And she was saying this too, and I've said this to other people too. She's like, if my child wasn't reading, they would send a specialist.
Yeah.
And I've said that too. If your baby had a broken leg, they'd send you to a specialist. They wouldn't just say, oh, it's fine. Oh, just give a bottle. Just stick a splint on it. Put a belt around it and tourniquet it and send him off to school. He's fine. But because it's breastfeeding, people are really quick to dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically dismissing you as their mother. They're basically saying what you're doing for your child isn't important enough. Just stop, because they don't need it anymore. Whereas they're not considering what this does. And again, like you said, if you look at this from the baby's perspective, that's what that baby's been doing since the moment he was born. You're just going to take it away and expect that to be okay with them? That's damaging.
Totally. And it's like, I think because breastfeeding, we talked about breastfeeding being so much more than food, and it's like emotional and psychological security and attachment. And, we can't handle these topics in this culture. Like, this is the most neglectful culture ever, of just we don't give like walking and talking adults space to have emotions
No.
and feelings and, psychological health. We don't do that. We can't even, like, there's so many people are so emotionally and psychologically damaged themselves that they're struggling to provide this at all for their baby. No, just get over it. You were just born, you're crying. God, just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Your feelings are too much for me. And hey, trust me, I get it. My kids' feelings are too much for me. Like that, I will be the first to be like, oh my God, I can't handle your feelings right now.
Right.
But like, and it's because I was brought up in this culture too, with from a couple of people who cannot bear feelings and emotions.
Yeah, mine too.
And, like, and so now it's like I'm struggling, to try to break this cycle of like, I don't know, just the emotion, the ignoring of emotions and feelings and psychological health. I don't want my kids to be brought up like that, but it's a struggle because I was.
Right. We don't know how to do it the other way.
I
mean, and breastfeeding obviously helps because, like you were saying, the suckling, that's really important for babies to learn how to self-soothe. So when you have babies that are breastfeeding and they continue to, they learn how to self-soothe, which means they learn how to regulate and they learn how to control their emotions a little bit better and they learn how to express their emotions. So it is breaking the cycle. We just can't deal with it because we haven't done it. Like it's just bottom line.
Right.
And it's funny because sometimes people would be like, well, I didn't breastfeed and I'm fine. Or, my mom didn't breastfeed us and, we're healthy. Like, okay, how are your relationships? How's your relationship with your mother? Like there's way more to it than what people think it is. There's way
and maybe
more.
you are fine. Maybe you're fine. Is that what you want for your kids, to be fine?
Nope.
Don't we want to give more? Don't we want to like figure out? I mean, like, I don't know who's out there who's not like, because even if you have like, in air quotes again, the perfect parents, like everybody's got stuff, right? Everybody grows up with stuff.
Right.
And like, who's not out there as a parent trying to work through this stuff to make it better for their own kids? Like, who's not doing that? Like, this is what it is. That's what we're doing. That's like literally what this is. Trying to make things better for our kids than it was for us.
Right.
And, you can please feel free to breastfeed at every moment for as long as your child is latching on. Right. If they're still latching on, then no, I would, you don't have to be like, oh, well, maybe it is time to wean. I mean, if they're still latching, game on.
And that's what you want. But if somebody is trying to convince you that you should be stopping, that's not okay.
No.
It's nobody else's decision. This is between you and your baby. This is your relationship. It's like somebody saying, you know what? I'm not really comfortable with your husband. I think you should just leave him. And it's
I feel that way a lot.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just leave him because my friend doesn't like it.
Not about my husband, about my friend's husbands.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You should just get divorced.
You should just get divorced.
Just kidding. But even like, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
Like, this is not my life to tell people, like, I'm going to listen. And I'm going to try to help them, like, figure out what to do for themselves. I'm not going to be like, you should just divorce him. He's kind of a jerk anyway.
Yeah, just get rid of it. Just stop it. Like you said, you'd never do that in any other aspect of life. But when it comes to breastfeeding, people feel like it's okay for them to put their 2 cents in, and it's not. So that is where, like, that is where we're leaving it today. Like, this is your relationship with your baby. If you want to continue breastfeeding, you breastfeed. Don't worry about what other people say, and don't let people tell you that it's not giving them any kind of benefit after a certain age, because that is not true.
It's such garbage.
It is garbage.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.